Hey man, how's it
Go.
going?
Uh,
You look like a movie star.
and let me see if I have a volume. Oh, there we go. Now I can
Can you
hear.
can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you.
I have to go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I had to turn my volume like way up. I have a, I have my snowball ready. I think I have a pretty good
Yeah.
camera
No, looks
connection. I
good.
can turn these lights down a bit.
Your camera wiggles around a little bit when you move, but yeah, it looks pretty good.
That's probably better.
Silverstein, is that a band?
Yeah, I was just at the show last weekend. Here, I'm gonna turn this light off here because this one is too bright, and then I can turn these ones up. That's better. Much better. Yeah, so I was just at the Silverstein show last weekend in Saskatoon, and it was an awesome concert.
What kind of music do they play?
It's kind of more God, I don't even know how to describe it. Like the emo music in high school that used to be like kind of popular, like that pop punk
It
uh
was the
kind of
summer of
stuff.
sadness, like that kind of stuff.
I don't know. I guess kind of. You could kind of
Not
say
like
that.
90s.
No, it
In the
was like they
summer, she
were they
broke
were
up
coming
with
out with new
me.
music at the time, like 2005, 2006. So they were pretty.
Can you play me a riff, or how good of a setup you got over there?
Um, Let me see. I might be able to. If I switch this over here, I could hook up my Bluetooth here, and but no, yeah, they're an awesome band. And the thing I like about them too is they were awesome back then, and then they've been making newer music lately that's like just as good. So it was an awesome show. I was really happy to be able to go. But this is one of their ones.
So they're like reincarnating, like not Green Day. Okay, sorry. Let me hear it. Let me hear it.
You might recognize this one. This one was pretty popular back in the day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was what I thought. Yeah, sounds pretty good, man. Yeah, I know this kind of music for sure, but like, I'm not very well versed on music at all.
Yeah, so that was I saw that they were on tour and they're a band. They're just from Ontario actually. They're a Canadian band and they were pretty big back then. And I think like there's a lot of people that are starting to get more into that music now, or it's I don't know, it's kind of just more coming to the forefront. I feel like there was a lot of people that were listening to it back then,
Yeah, I
and
hope so.
it's
I
becoming
think it's because a lot
more
of people are getting off
relevant
the hip
now.
hop train. A lot of people are getting off
Yeah,
the hip hop
definitely.
train.
Yeah, I don't know. Hip hop's kind of starting to die down a bit. I think rock's kind of making a resurgence again, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see people pick up instruments
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
use their vocals for singing and not just rapping a lot of the time. But it's nice. I love a lot of the new rock music coming out. I listen to a lot of like '90s rock nowadays too, like '90s and early 2000s rock.
Hmm.
I like Alice in Chains music like that.
Oh
So
yeah. Shit. If we like the opposite kind of music.
yeah, it varies. I
Yeah.
I kind of listen to everything. I'll listen to rap every now and then too, but
Yeah.
yeah, I find lately it's more so kind of I don't want to say older rock, but it is kind of considered older rock now.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what's crazy about it is, back when like it was like 2005, it was like if I was listening to music from like 20 years ago, well that was 1985. If I listen to music 20 years ago now, well that's 2003. So
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
it's
It
it's just
feels
crazy. It
weird.
blows my mind.
It feels weird. What you're describing is what it feels like to be old, I think, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just kind of
Now
starting
that we've
to
actually lived
finally
it,
hit.
it doesn't feel like it's so far in the past. It doesn't feel like it's an era from the past.
Oh, it
Yeah.
just went by so fast, and it's yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about that. It's like I kind of know what it was like to live in the '80s now.
Yeah.
but it was like my 80s was the 2000s. So
Yeah. Hey, and
yeah,
if you don't mind,
it's
because we're
crazy how
kind
things
we're
have
kind of like,
changed.
if you don't mind, because we're kind of like rocking and rolling here. Can I just do like a quick little intro for you because like, I mean, I was gonna get like talk to you a little more about, hey, what this is what we're gonna do and stuff, but it seems like you're pretty fucking like, this is good stuff already. Let's just keep talking. But if you don't mind, I'll just introduce who you are, so that anybody who watches me will then know who you are. That's how we do it. So basically, you and we went to high school together, sort of, and yeah, and I always I'm happy to have you on the podcast. Maybe you caught a little bit of it. I seen you commenting every now and then. So basically, we went to high school together. We didn't know each other that well, but I kind of always knew you as like you were like the funny guy, and everybody kind of
Yeah.
always liked you, and I always wanted that, but I never knew how to get it. Like I didn't know. I was so antisocial. I just didn't know how to get it. Like, I'm very unlikable, and
You
you're
know,
very likable.
the crazy thing about that though too though is, to me in high school, if you're gonna gas me up a bit, you were like a 10 out of 10, dude. It was like athletic. The dude was good looking. I remember you always had your hair done
Yeah,
and was
I was
like just
obsessed with it.
always like on point, always on game, and was just like, man, if I wish I could be like that guy,
Oh, thanks, dude.
like
Yeah,
so.
if only we could combine our powers, we would. Yeah. So yeah. So anyway, I just want to thank you for coming on and kind of sharing some of your opinions on things, and basically being like, hey, let's talk about whatever, which I really respect that, and so yeah, here we are on the show. This is Canadian Talk, and this would be episode 62. So other than like music, because I feel like we don't. I'm not a big music guy. I understand the art, and that kind of a thing, but it's not really like one of my big things. What are some of your favorite things to talk about?
I'm very much into politics, American politics. I try to keep up with Canadian politics, but I find that Canadian politics just aren't really on my forefront. I'm on Twitter a lot, but I just don't find it very come up very often. Either that, or it's just very boring. I gotta say, it's just the same old attack after attack over and over and over again, and I kind of find that even from both sides, to the point where I just kind of eventually just tune out.
I
But
find that comfort. I find that comforting, not boring.
yeah, it's I don't know, it's just it becomes too repetitive. And I mainly mean like especially when I go on Twitter, I have a secret Twitter account, and then I have my main Twitter account. So
Sick.
my secret Twitter account
Yeah.
is, I only follow people on the left,
Okay.
and I want to get a gauge of what kind of craziness that people are saying on that side, because honestly it is just really far out there a lot of the times. And I kind of want to wrap my head around, why do you come to this conclusion? Like, why do you think about this on a daily basis, and how do you kind of live your life? Because a lot of the time I feel like I just can't wrap my head around it. And so I find a lot of it, the left side of my Twitter is actually a lot more toxic than the right side of my Twitter, because I follow a lot of right-sided people, but a lot of the people on the left that I find, they're only complaining about stuff. They only complain about stuff, and they only talk about stuff that they hate, and things that ruin their day, and
Mhm.
things that make them mad. And
Mhm.
it just blows my mind that it's like, I can understand how people can go on this website and
Yeah.
just have a bad time all the time, because there's just
Yeah.
people posting negativity about
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, you know what it is it's like for it comes down to people wanting to make a difference or feel like they're making a difference. So to them, to those types of thinkers, they believe that complaining is helping. They feel that by complaining or talking about, oh, this is hard, that's hard, they think that they're spreading awareness of the difficulty of life. I feel like that's what I feel like. I feel like everybody is motivated by what they believe to be good. I think at the end of the day, as much as it is insufferable to watch, and read, as you mentioned. It is very interesting. So you consider yourself sort of on the right side of the spectrum. Is this what you're getting at?
I myself in 2016, I think is when the initial election was, when the Liberals took over. I had initially voted Liberal. I was very liberal back in, probably back in that time.
It's almost like they
I
used. By the way, if you don't mind, I'll interrupt every now and then when I have like a good thought, but I won't interrupt for a long period of time. It's like they almost used weed a little bit to just kind of shove Trudeau in there, you know? Like I don't think he would have
it
ever gotten
was
in.
weed. But another thing that I really enjoyed that Trudeau was about back then was they really supported families, and I think that's absolutely something that is very important. I have a family myself, but there was another thing, and nobody talks about this anymore. But they actually promised not student loan forgiveness, but they promised we weren't going to let anybody or make anybody pay back student loans until they were making $25,000 a year. And poof, it just absolutely disappeared. I'm not somebody myself that has student loans, but I was like, you know what? That's a very good thing. That's a very common sense thing that makes sense. If people can't really afford to pay these student loans right out of college, then they should be able to be given some leeway until they're making a steady income and they can start paying them back. That sounds reasonable. It never happened. What ended up happening was the economy went to crap, everything went more expensive. The carbon tax was implemented, so everything got more expensive, and it just went to crap. It just went to crap. Housing got expensive, food got expensive, gas got expensive, and here we are. Here we are.
Well, yeah, back to the cyclical thing, right? It just based on I'll say a few of like the things that I see, and then we'll get around back to what you were talking about. I feel like it's very cyclical. Like during liberal governments, right? They allow it's immigration. It's like it's all the aspects of each side kind of work against each other, but also work to strengthen each other. So like you'll have a period of liberal government like we've had for the last 8 or whatever years, and so we have our houses that are worth so much money now because all these people have moved here, which is good, right? So, but what's bad about it is there's less jobs, and there's these give and takes that happen on either side. I feel like, and to do with the student loans, I think it's crazy. Like I don't know much about it because I myself didn't have them either. But I've heard that they don't affect your credit. So I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Myself, I've never had to take out student loans at all. I was able to go through college without having to take out a huge loan. I went to the Western Academy Broadcasting College in Saskatoon, so I do have a degree in broadcasting in some sense. It's almost like a clown college, pretty much. If you kind of look it up, but I do have some background. I've been in radio I did radio for about 4.5 years, and I've just been
Wow.
kind of working random jobs since then for the past probably like 6 years now. So it's been a while that I've been out of radio, but I do know how to do a broadcast and do news stories and things like that. Um,
Wow.
I know how to listen to the news, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to listen to the news nowadays because back when I was in school, you don't report on anything that you can't absolutely verify. And what I started seeing was people were just wanting to be first to the story. They don't care if it's verified or if it's correct information. They just want to be first to the story, and we'll put out the correction a week from now. And the problem with that is people will initially see that story and they'll believe whatever the lie is or the inaccurate information, and they won't ever get that follow up a week later. They won't ever see the updated information because why would they? It's the exact reason why people kept saying Donald Trump was calling Mexicans rapists because
Yeah.
they I don't know, some news story somewhere quoted it,
Yeah.
but the actual quote was whatever it was, and nobody ended up looking into what the actual quote was. They're still pulling up these old news stories that are saying this is what he said, and it's inaccurate information. And it's very frustrating because I couldn't fathom doing something like that. I couldn't fathom putting something out that I can't verify myself and I know is 100% fact. And it's what we see news organizations do on a regular basis. And nobody really holds them to account at all. I don't know who could.
Yeah. Well, it seems nowadays the government feels like it's their job to keep the peace socially, so they control what the bigger news establishments say. That's why they don't like this type of thing. Like the new media really is basically podcasts, right? Where we can say whatever we want, that kind of thing. Would you agree? That's new media. That's like the new individualized
Yeah.
media.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, we if you don't have a boss over you or you don't have a manager over you that's saying, like, "Hey, we don't want you to talk about this," and especially what a lot of the news organizations nowadays, since they have a lot of sponsors, well, you can't say anything negative about Pfizer. You can't say anything negative about Moderna because Pfizer sponsors us for $300,000 a month or whatever, and they're getting that money, so they kind of have a say in that. Whereas the people that have smaller podcasts or that don't have that big corporate money in them, they have a little bit more leeway to be like, hey, we don't have people that are pulling the strings. I run this show, and if I don't want something on the podcast, then I'm going to be the one that has that final say.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
I like that model.
whoever's up above.
Yeah.
So
I like that model, obviously. I mean, right. I can see that it should be the only way to go, really. But again, back to the student loans thing. Like, to my personal experience on that, uh, like I've been seeing, so like I just wish that people wouldn't get so stressed about it, because it's like what Donald Trump said in that fucking town hall thing, when it came to the American debt. It's just a psychological thing. Like, it's don't people. I think people get too worried about money. Like, honestly, I know. So I dated a girl who was from South America for a while, and she had family members. It made me aware of this whole community, and I found out that, and I don't know, there might be a nickname for this. This might be something that's known. They come to primarily Canada. That's all I know about anecdotally, and they go to university to like the third year. They almost complete it. So they take out student loans. They just don't pay them and then leave. And then they don't
can
have
you
to.
do that?
I don't think student loans are international. So that's just what they do. And I was like, man, and I bring it up because, like, I personally know three people who have done it, where they have $100,000 in student loans and just left the country. And it's like, so why are people here even caring about it? Like, you just gotta. I don't know, though. That's where I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, if there's going to take anything seriously, it should be money, but or else the whole system falls apart. Really.
Well, I mean, that's what's so important though about if you do make that decision to take out student loans is that you kind of have to have a plan and make sure that you're going to be able to pay them back because you don't want to put yourself in that position. Which is kind of one of the reasons why I didn't want to attend university because I knew that that was really going to be the only way I was going to be able to do that is if I took out student loans. And um, I don't know. It's kind of it's something that you need to have your future planned out. That it's like exactly what you want to do with your life, what you're going to go to university for. But I wouldn't recommend anybody that's like, well, I don't know what I want to go to university for. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to make my parents take out these student loans for me. And then you're going to do like 2 years, 3 years of university and drop out. And then you've got thousands of dollars of student loans that you like they're worth nothing. Like you've
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's just
Exactly.
ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
at least stay in university, but you can't go to university and take your lesbian dance theory degree and expect to be making $100,000 a year, $300,000 a year. It's just not feasible. But
Exactly. Yeah, I know. But
got
yet
to be smart with it.
I know. But yet they think that it is. Like, people out there think that money will just get given to them. It's crazy. I know. I wouldn't recommend university either. I feel like, what's crazy, and I'm one of the rare ones who did. Like, I did engineering, which is, a lot of people think it's a pretty applicable degree. And even after that, I really wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend I would recommend, if you can get 50 grand from your parents when you first start out, I would recommend get a job where you can buy your first house, start there, rent and so forth and so on. But like, yeah, university really isn't that valuable. Uh, I mean, just go work for the government. That's pretty much the most secure job there is out there. Any
Yeah.
job that you're going to get, I've found, any job you're going to get with where they require university qualifications is always, they're always these temporary type jobs. Like even in construction industry, in the medical industry, in everything, in the financial industry, So I'm speaking very broadly, I know, but I hope you're
Well,
you're following.
things have changed a lot too since our parents went to university. Everything's different. There's a lot of ways to make an honest living that is on the same level as university education, that you don't have to put yourself through amazing student loans. And I have two brothers that are journeyman carpenters now that did not have to put themselves through student loans and debt to get to where they are, and they make very, very good earnings for themselves.
Well, you
I
don't
have a
even need to
brother
make
that
that much, right?
basically is a supervisor on a job site now, that
Yeah,
has a crew that he tells what to do and makes a very, very, very good living. And that's a very respectable job. I have a lot of respect for both of my brothers for what they do, because I don't think that I'd be really cut out for that kind of work. Otherwise, I would be in the construction business, and it takes a lot of brain, and it takes a lot of brawn. It's not just using your brain in a job like that. So you
exactly.
know it's important to not put any negative light on a trade, um especially if you don't really know what you're going to be doing for the future, whether it's going to be university or maybe you do want to go into the trades, because I know both of my brothers absolutely love it. It's
Yeah,
I don't think they'd rather be doing anything else
yeah,
for a living,
for
honestly.
sure. The one thing that I have to say so far about this chat is I wish it wasn't over the video chat. Like we need to be more interactive with our interrupting, and it's quite hard to do.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to do over the video chat, but that's all right though. We'll make it work. So that's awesome to hear, man. Yeah, it's cool that you have two brothers. I always wanted a brother. And man, that's cool that you have such a big family. I saw that you have like three kids, right? Like that's amazing.
Yeah, I do.
Good for you.
I've got three kids,
Good for you.
10, 7, and 2.
Cool. Um, yeah, we don't have to talk about that on the podcast, children. So you do you like the UFC?
Yeah, honestly, my wife would probably be able to talk your ear off more about the UFC
Oh
than I
yeah,
would. But we've been watching more and more of the fights. I watch them when they're on. She's kind of more in depth with fighters and events coming up and stuff like that. I'm more of the one that's just like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I have a few fighters that I like. Oliveira is really, really nice to watch.
Oliveira. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um,
He's lost me a lot of
See,
money.
it
That
just goes to
fucking
show
guy.
I'm not that into it,
That's
but I
okay.
do
It's
like
okay.
watching UFC. I used to watch a lot back when Brock Lesnar was fighting. He
Yes.
was my favorite fighter back then, and so we're starting to kind of get back into it more now. But yeah, I got to say my wife is probably more into UFC than I am. But
That's
yeah, we
awesome.
we love it here at this house.
That's really cool, man. So yeah, you're married and everything, hey? Man, I've had
Yeah,
my dating lives have been pretty not so good. It's been a little up and a little down, and I've had some long-term relationships that haven't worked out. But I'm happy to say that I haven't lost any of my money. I don't have any kids yet that are with women that I'm not with, which I think is a good thing because I think once you're having kids, I don't think you should leave a woman, you know, even if she's literally psycho. I think you kind of are stuck in there for 18 years, no matter what.
yeah, you absolutely have an obligation to your kid,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So
I think so too, man. You can't just leave your kid with a crazy lady, you know? Oh,
absolutely not.
yeah. Did you see the coronation?
No,
You're
actually,
French, right?
I don't honestly, I don't care that much
Yeah.
about the coronation.
I
I
don't.
missed a
I
lot of
believe
it.
you. You're French.
I saw some performances. I saw some oh god, who was it? It was like Lionel Richie
Yeah.
was singing, and it was like the most god awful performance I've ever seen.
Yeah, just die already. Holy shit.
But I was like, why are and I saw Katy Perry was performing, and then I was like, I don't know if he's like a fan of American Idol or something. It's like why, like I mean, it's great for American Idol. They're like, we're gonna get some of our judges at the coronation, but I don't know. I don't really understand a lot of the appeal. I'm not against the monarchy, but it's just not. It's they're almost in like the same boat as like keeping up with the Kardashians. It's just like I don't keep up with the royals as much as some people do, but I know like in the UK, like there's huge super fans, and I'm sure probably in Canada as well. But it's almost kind of like over the top. Like people didn't think that there was going to be a lot of people at that coronation. Like the streets were flooded for it. Like it's obvious people support the monarchy, and people obviously wanted to be there.
You know, I've been feeling like I've been starting to have a bit of a better understanding to it. So let me just, I'll say a small tidbit. I have a question for you about broadcasting real quick too, and we can go back to the monarchy. But I feel like, so basically, if you had to answer what is the biggest problem in Western democracy right now, in one or like 1 to 3 words, what would it be? Biggest problem, Western democracy. It's okay if you can't think of one right away. That's okay. So
I don't
to
know. I don't
me,
want to say
to me,
it.
to me, yeah, I get it. To say the
um,
biggest problem, to me, the biggest problem is the public. So right now, the biggest problem in all of Western democracy, United States, Canada, is that we are electing these leaders, fine, and we're sloshing back and forth between principles and laws, fine, to keep everything balanced, good, so everything's working. But we're steadily seeing the public starting to polarize because they are disliking the leader, the one leader, even though the leader basically means nothing, like Trump or Obama or whoever's leading doesn't really matter. But we're seeing an increase in people hating that person and blaming that person. So then I think about British democracy, and I realize that they conjoined. You know, the royal family is a head of state. They have authority over the prime minister of Britain. So and you see a lot less of that there. The public doesn't blame the politicians. They see the politicians as, you know, tools in the cogs in the machine, which is what we should see them more as over here. But yet we see dudes driving around with "fuck Trudeau" stickers on their truck and all that kind of stuff. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I just don't think there should be any violent rhetoric in politics. I wish everybody understood it more. You know. Uh,
yeah.
so
No, I
that's
think if more people were aware that there were more people making decisions within the parties, I think like a lot of the people that you only really see at the forefront are Trudeau and
yeah,
Chrystia Freeland and
yeah,
you know, even figures like Catherine McKenna back then was a very prominent figure back in the Liberal Party and very vocal. And the more vocal you end up becoming, you almost kind of end up becoming the face of the party. So I can definitely agree with you.
yeah.
I've been
So
saying for months that if they end up having another election, I don't see that Trudeau will remain the leader for the Liberal Party. I
definitely not.
just
Yeah,
I
that's why
just
they
can't
got
see
Singh
it.
in there or whatever to kind of split it up. The coalition stuff. Yeah,
Well, he's I honestly I think that after with everything that happened with the pandemic, I think that he's just radioactive at this point. I think there's too many people that are against Trudeau that they're going to need a fresh face to take over the Liberal Party. And you know, he's been leader for long enough. I wouldn't blame him for not even wanting to continue to be prime minister because I'm sure there's still a seat
yeah,
for him at the House of Commons, but
yeah. So
I just can't see if the Liberal Party does want to end up winning that next election, they need to get rid of Trudeau. But it's I don't know who they're going to
yeah,
pick to be
they can't. They
their
wouldn't. It
leader.
wouldn't be. It would be NDP or Conservative. Like, there's no way we'll have another Liberal government after this long. But sorry, just to
No, I
just
couldn't
jump
see
back to
it.
my main, jump back to the main timeline here. So that's basically my understanding of the political wing of what the British monarchy does for society, other than charity and all that other shit. So anyway, and we'll come back to Michael Chong. We're in Canadian politics, but first, in broadcasting, do they in broadcasting school? Because you said you had a degree in that, right?
Yep.
Did they teach you guys when you speak and this type of stuff, and when you try to explain things? I guess you wouldn't be explaining things; you'd be reading prompters or whatever. Do they tell you guys to not talk about ethnicity? Like, are you much of an ethnicist? Like, in terms of you being, you're a French guy? Are you pure French? Are you Jewish? Are you what's your ethnicity?
I am a quarter French. I'm also a quarter Irish, a quarter English, and a quarter Scottish. But my last
Perfect
name
blend.
is
You're iced
French.
tea.
My the French side of my family has been in Canada since the 1690s.
United
I'm
Kingdom Dr. Pepper.
the 13th generation that has been born in Canada, and I'm basically old stock Canadian, if you would say that,
Yeah,
or
you look like a
in
French conquistador. You look like a guy
Quebec they
who's
would
about
say
to win a
pure
battle.
lane. So, but no, actually, I had a cousin. My dad was just saying not that long ago. I had a cousin that took one of the DNA tests because it's been kind of speculated that there's been some Native American in our family because we've been in Canada since like I said, like the late 1690s,
Mhm.
300 years, and it turns out there's absolutely none. We are we're
Yeah,
just French.
yeah,
So
yeah. I guess you look
that
a little
was
Irish too. Yeah,
interesting, but there's a lot of Canadian French history that kind of ties into that. That it makes a lot of sense that I could do like a whole other podcast on. But I consider myself to be French Canadian. I do have an English side and Scottish and Irish to me, but my last name is French Canadian, and that's kind of basically the family that I most relate to, basically.
for sure, for sure. Are you fluent in French? Of course, yeah.
I'm not. No, my dad is. My grandpa moved from Quebec to Saskatchewan, and he was only fluent in French when he moved here. So he had to learn English very quickly because he was actually bullied fairly harshly from his classmates because he couldn't speak English.
Yeah,
But the crazy thing is, I speak to a lot of. I've spoken to a lot of people from Quebec. They have that French accent to them, and my grandpa didn't have that accent at all growing up, so it
yeah.
never really dawned on me that he was only fluent in French
Can I
when
tell
he
you my
moved
favorite
here,
thing about
and
French
he just didn't
Canadians?
have that accent.
Can I tell you my favorite thing about French Canadians?
What?
My favorite thing about French Canadians is that I have to say that they are probably the most nationalistic of the white Canadians in Canada. They're the ones who
Yeah,
are
they
like, keep our
absolutely.
language. This is our fucking land. This is, I kind of love that.
Yeah, the Quebec has been pretty adamant, and lately they've been wanting to take immigration down because they find that it's going to be a threat to their heritage and their language. And I think it's just crazy because it's honestly like name any other country or territory that's like that they're like, no, we don't want. They're like, why do you not want more immigrants? They're like, we just don't want people not speaking French.
They get so annoyed by it. It's hilarious. I love it.
it's like it's like everybody just has to accept it. They're just like, well, I don't know, I guess like they
Yeah.
literally voted for the people that all agree with it. So I guess there's nothing we can do.
Yeah. Oh,
But
okay. Hey,
it's like
so I was
it's
going to
just
ask you.
crazy.
So you consider yourself a comedian now, and you do video game streaming, right?
Occasionally I'll stream every now and then,
And you play
or
Fortnite?
I'll post the odd TikTok here and there.
Cool, cool. What's your handle on TikTok or other social medias that so that people can find you?
So you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Happy Young Guy. And I think on my TikTok is so my TikTok, I used to have a different TikTok, but I figured out that the handle, so there's World Star Hip Hop, and I changed my handle to World Hip Star Hop. So that's my handle on
I
TikTok.
bet you get a bunch of
Is
like free followers. Do you have a lot of followers or
No, I don't. I have maybe close to like 125, I think, on Twitter, and I think on TikTok I have like 31 or something like that.
nice,
So
nice.
no, it's not a lot,
Yeah.
but I'm
One
I'm
day.
on Twitter probably the most. I'm fairly active on Twitter, so you can find me on there pretty much every single day.
Cool. Um, cool, man. So what video game do you like to stream most?
Occasionally Fortnite. I still play a lot of that, and Diablo Immortal, which is just like a mobile game.
I
Not
like
very
Diablo, but
very
I only
often
really play
though.
on the
But
PC.
yeah. Diablo Immortal's just it's just a mobile game, free to play, and it's been a lot of fun. You can do a lot of raids and stuff on there.
Okay, Diablo
Um,
Immortal, send me that check just in the mail. I'll give you my address
and you can also, the
for
thing
that
I like
ad.
about it too is you can hook up a PlayStation controller to your phone, so you can just play on a controller. You don't have to use the touchpad on your phone. So that's nice too. But yeah, I try to stream occasionally, but it's not very often.
Cool. So, so you pretty good at Fortnite then, or?
No.
Oh,
No, absolutely not. It
oh.
depends. I play on no build mode, so I don't get shit on too bad. But
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's
way
fun to
better.
play. I played last season. Last season had some pretty good skins to unlock, like the Doom skin and stuff like that. And I decided not to even bother buying this season pass because it wasn't interesting really at all. I think one of the main appealing skins was like Attack on Titan, and that's a show that I just don't really watch, so I just didn't really care. Maybe next season I'll buy it, but I just save up my V Bucks from like the season that I play because you earn V Bucks, and then I just buy the next battle pass with that. So it's no loss.
Oh my god, fucking awesome, dude. That's funny. That's funny and awesome. I have to say, I've never paid for Fortnite.
No, neither have I.
You're so fucking
not
cultured,
not
man.
once.
You make choices in your video game based on like your real opinions about like movies and culture and shit. I just don't have the time to consider everything to that extent. I don't know how you do it.
Oh, I grinded so hard the season before. I think like once you got to level 99, you unlocked Darth Vader. And I was like, I have to. Like, there's no way that I can't not unlock Darth Vader on this one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I played throughout the whole season and I finally unlocked it. And it was so worth it. And then now I never play as Darth Vader because he's just like huge and bulky and just
Yes.
really easy to hit.
Yeah, I
So
see all the good players use that Skippy bunny that skips all around. It's like a
no,
bunny.
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I I don't really have like too much of a main skin that I play with. I've got like an Indiana Jones one that I usually use that I unlocked a while back. But
Cool. And you
I
have a
don't know.
Twitch
Like
too, right?
I work throughout the week and then I get the kids to bed at like 8, 9 o'clock, and then sometimes I can get on for like an hour. So I don't usually play too often, but it's easy to level up kind of more close to the end of the season because there's more challenges and you kind of just play the game and you're doing all these challenges and getting bonus experience for it without even realizing it. So
Yeah.
it's
That's so
that's fun
cool.
fun game.
That's so cool that you have freaking three little mini people that you made. It's like it's such a cool thing to have. You know, like biggest like I all biggest thing I have right now is like a cat. You know, like I got this
Oh, I have a
cat.
cat too.
I got this cat that I'm obsessed with, dude. Yeah, like oh man, I haven't really taken any big risks in life yet. I'm pretty worried about taking my first big risk. God, like the biggest risk I've taken is like my cat likes to claw at my toilet paper, and like so there's like these little holes in my toilet paper, right? So then like when I go to wipe, I'm like, is this gonna like because I got all these cat cuts in my toilet paper. It's like I'm not sure if I want to trust it, but I also don't want to throw it out. It's like, what am I going to use this toilet paper for? It's
No,
got
your cat's helping you out. That's extra grip on the
yeah,
toilet paper.
that'll grab yeah.
Uh It's like he's like, no,
Increasing
you're
the
only getting
surface
the
area.
one ply. You need to double it up, and I'm going to put some
Yeah,
texture on here for
yeah.
you.
My cat's an engineer. My cat's an engineer. She's increasing the surface area of the toilet paper for more pickup. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Ah, fuck, forgot what I was going to say. So, shit. I mean, I think we're pretty much at an hour. That might be an episode, man.
I don't have my watch on me, but
Yeah.
yeah, probably. I didn't.
Okay.
I started drinking quite a bit, and then I was like, oh right, yeah, I was supposed to do that tonight. But
Yeah,
no worries. I'm always on my A game. I'm always up
for sure.
for a chat.
I can tell, dude.
Um,
Honestly,
you can
all I
always
want
send
to
me a
do is
message and
I'm
bend my
gonna.
ear.
Sorry, I was talking over you. After this, all I want to do is basically come to Yorkton to do this in person. Or if you're ever passing through Saskatoon, we should definitely. You can come to my studio that I have here. You know, my studio,
Absolutely.
and we can do it a little bit more interactive, a little better.
Yeah, I'd love
I
to.
didn't even get into my list at all here. A couple more questions for you because we're probably like closer to like 50 minutes than a full hour. What did you think of that town hall with Donald Trump? Did it have you? Did you watch it all the way through or no?
Yeah, I did actually. I watched the whole town hall, and like I said to you before, I don't think that they should have had. I think CNN absolutely dropped the ball on this because Trump is Trump is somebody who is always on his A game. He's always ready to go. It's very hard to slip him up. And this host that they had on seemed like she was very easy to slip up, and I find that he talked over her a lot of the time,
Yeah.
because he was just able to.
I like when he just goes,
She
"Excuse me,
allowed him to.
excuse me." I like when he goes, "Excuse me, excuse me."
I find a lot of the parts too where she's just like, there was no election fraud, Donald Trump. He was like literally already talking about something else, and she's
Yeah,
just like, I have to mention that there was no election fraud,
yeah,
and it's just like
yeah,
nobody cares.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he walked all over her, and yeah, you're definitely right about that. But I guess it being a Republican town hall, I imagine that I guess it was hosted by CNN. So I imagine that lady works for CNN, but he did do a good job. Yeah, definitely.
I got to give him credit for actually doing it though, because one thing that I did actually learn in broadcasting school, whenever there are elections, if if they run a conservative election ad, by law they have to run a liberal election ad by law, and they'll
Okay.
also have to run an NDP election ad. They just have to. It's by law. It has to be absolutely even. Canada has these crazy laws like that. That it's like don't even get me started on CRTC, where 35% of the content that you hear on the radio has to be Canadian content, which means it has to either be a Canadian artist that does it, it has to be a Canadian artist that wrote it, it has to be recorded in Canada, or God, I forget what the third one is, but it needs to fit 2 out of the 4 criteria. And it's like that with political ads as well. And it is nice to see that CNN is giving both sides a say, because if you're going to believe in free speech, I think Anderson Cooper came on the next day and he was saying, we allowed him to come on. And this is exactly how free speech works. It's he's going to say what he wants to say. You either agree with it or you disagree with it. And there's going to be people that watch that town hall and say that was a brilliant man, and there's going to be people that watch the town hall and say that was a complete idiot, and why would I ever vote for him? But he needs to be able to have that right to go on air and say that.
Two, two,
And
two quick side, two
CNN
quick
has to be able to do that.
two quick side topics here as you go. Anderson Cooper, I heard a thing that he is like a descendant of like a billionaire. Do you have?
Yeah.
And then Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon. Did you hear about that at all? What do you think about that with the whole them getting fired and stuff?
I think Don Lemon is going to end up fading off into the abyss. I don't think we're going to hear much of Don Lemon anymore. If we do, might be years from now, and it's going to be something very obscure. I think that Tucker Carlson is absolutely going to dominate online now. Now that he has the perfect opportunity to come out with this show, Tucker Unleashed.
Totally. Yeah.
He's off the leash now. He
Yeah.
doesn't have what Fox News is saying. You can't say this. You can't say that. He can say what he wants. Similar to James O'Keefe, that is kind of running the show. That he gets to put out what he wants to put out. So
This what
Tucker Carlson, I think, he's going to do very well. I don't think that his career is at the end at all. And in fact, I think there's only up
Yeah. It's
from
because
where
he's
he's
got
at right
passion.
now.
Yeah, he's got passion. This is what I'll say about Tucker Carlson is if you haven't already seen his podcast, like when he went on the Nelk Boys, which is essentially one of the biggest podcasts out there of young independents, he did a really good job. You know what I really, when I he got me, and you can call it he tricked me or whatever, but consider me tricked. Then I don't hate him. I don't think he was when so he was on this podcast. Have you seen him on that yet or no?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I haven't seen the
so
Nelk podcast at all. No, I know
yeah,
the Nelk boys
yeah.
though.
Anybody out
They
there, go
they
check
do
it out.
some good
But
work.
so he's on there, and he is openly, publicly saying he's like. They asked him. They go, "Do you regret anything?" and he goes, my promotion of the Iraq War, and he says he goes to the Nelk boy, like, to one of the guys, I don't know their names. He goes, imagine if you did that. Like he was authentically regretful and admitting it publicly when he doesn't need to, that he regrets that. Which I
Yeah,
think at
I think
that
I saw
moment,
that clip.
I was like, this guy is for real. Like he's not trying to screw around, and he wants the best. And his explanation of why he did it, I honestly believed him. I know that at the time he maybe would have been 35 or however old he was when he was reporting on that, but he's from a family of broadcasters or whatever, and he was like, he said that I honestly thought that the mass media was trying to do good at that time. That was why I followed orders. And then now he says that he doesn't feel that way, which is like, it's interesting. You can play both sides, but I'm very excited to see his career. I'm surprised that from what they fired him over, I was very surprised. This is what shows you that essentially they can fire you whenever they want. Because what they
Yeah,
fired him
yeah.
over was silly. I don't know how much you've looked at the details, but I
You
mean,
know, and I think you really hit the nail on the head there with that. They really could. It could have been anything. They could have just found absolutely anything on Tucker to get rid of him. The real thing about it though is I don't think it's a coincidence that Don Lemon and Tucker got fired at the same time. I think that both stations are prepping for a very major election that's about to come up, and they need to get some fresh faces on there. I can't fathom, Tucker Carlson. When I think of Fox News, that's who I think of. I think of Tucker Carlson. That's Fox News. I don't
yeah,
know if
I don't know how they could
like,
fire
was
him.
Bill O'Reilly on Fox News? I feel like Bill
Yeah,
O'Reilly was probably on Fox, or
yeah.
I feel like Bill was more of a CNN guy. But
I think he
Bill,
was
like, I
on.
don't even think about Bill O'Reilly anymore.
I know
It's
they fired
Tucker.
him. Yeah, they fired him. What was his show called again? Bill O'Reilly's show.
Oh,
Let me quickly Google it.
I don't remember the
What was
O'Reilly
Bill
show, but
O'Reilly's show
Bill
called?
was I didn't really care for Bill, but back then I was also a liberal, so maybe if I kind of returned to some of his stuff, but um it's just a shame. It's just a shame that they got rid of Tucker, and I don't know who they could honestly replace him with. The numbers just dropped absolutely once he was gone. And Tucker's numbers are doing phenomenal on Twitter. He's posting videos that have like 15 million views on them.
That's insane.
So he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, totally. I, I I wonder why they. I wonder why they did that. What their plan is, because like you said, who are they going to replace him with? How can you replace him? He was a very good at what he did. Why wouldn't they want to endorse that?
Yeah, it's there's something's going on.
Something that we
Something's
don't
going on
know.
behind the scenes.
Something's going on behind the scenes for sure. The O'Reilly, is it the O'Reilly factor? I'm not.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds
Does
right.
that sound right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and okay. Oh, and this is so we're gonna end it with this. I just want to say thanks again for coming on. So the last question I kind of have for you. Oh, sorry. Did you say you did watch the town hall or not?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay. So near the end, my favorite part was, and this is because, so again, I'm not a supporter of Trump. I'm in the middle. But like I don't critique any leader. I just watch for things that are interesting. And at the end, he was talking about the Russia-Ukraine war, and I was just so happy as to how he was approaching it. Do you know what I'm talking about already, or
No,
do I need to
I
describe it?
can agree with you on that.
He was talking about how let's get it settled. He was talking about how he immediately started talking about how back when the Crimea situation was going on, and he was bringing up details about how he would have discussed this so that Zelensky wouldn't have put Putin in the position to do this, and yada yada yada. I'm not going to pretend like, again, we are just compared. So I can't really comment on this stuff. I understand because it's so highfalutin. But like to hear him as a leader talk about the war in that way, I'll negotiate to get it settled. War is bad, and on and on. When people call him, they people wouldn't expect him to behave that way towards the Russia-Ukraine war, but that yet there it is. Do you know what I'm saying? That was one of my
uh,
favorite parts about the whole town hall.
People were absolutely disgusted that he couldn't say, "Well, of course I want Ukraine to win." You know,
Yeah.
like it's they were just like, he couldn't say that. He couldn't
Yes.
say that he wants Ukraine to win. And you know, like let's like sit in reality for a second. There's no winning. What is Ukraine going to win out of this? They're what going to
Nothing.
win
Nothing.
back their
They, yeah.
territory?
Let's
There's
speak
no
in general.
what did they win?
Let's speak in generalities for a second. Ukraine is a country that is essentially the San Francisco of Russia. Okay, like are do you I don't know how much you know about Eastern politics or geo whatever. That is, all the people who are too liberal for Russia essentially migrate down to Ukraine. They go more towards the liberal Ukraine area. There will always be a lot of strife between Ukraine and Russia. So to talk about like there's ever a solution is silly. Like Russia, that another thing. Obviously, I've seen lots of stuff on this, but like all their high officials talk about all the details and the shit. They need access to the ports. Ukraine controls the ports and to the sea or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. So that is why this is happening. It really is too bad how many people have died in the war, because at the beginning of it, I thought that it was going to be done quickly. I thought that, like, I know that Russia is trying to minimize the incentive. Their goal is not to go in there and drop bombs and just kill everybody. They were trying to make it a special military operation, and then I believe that the West spurring it and calling it a war. Every time you call it a war, and I mean, even Trump up on the stage, I guess he chose to call it a war, but like it really is not good to whenever we started calling it that. It's just unfortunate, but it's amazing the division between in global politics between the East and the West, and like the authoritarianism versus democracy. Like when I didn't even realize that there was a disagreement globally, like amongst countries in such a deep way, you know. So
Yeah, it's crazy what your media doesn't tell you, and what
yeah,
the CBC won't let you know what's going on.
they
And
want us to hate
I feel like
Russia.
a lot of it, if anybody had said anything negative about Ukraine, it was immediately just it was Russian disinformation. It was, and I think that we should be able to have a conversation about everything, about all information. Maybe it is Russian disinformation, then we need to be able to actually prove that. But if we can't, I think we should be able to have a discussion about what's going on in both of these countries and what the motives are. But
To me, can I?
you know,
Let me say a harsh motive because I can say it and maybe you can't or whatever. I feel like the motive is this. Uh, Zelensky and I did see this on a thing, so I'm hijacking some other people's ideas a little bit here, but Zelensky found a way to get roughly $500 billion into his pocket, which is more than his 25 million citizens pay in taxes, in 5 years. So he made a decision. You know what's crazy is that Zelensky used to be a comedian,
oh yeah,
and he's the president of Ukraine. I
yeah.
can't believe. I personally can't believe that. So anyway, that's my opinion on that whole thing. I think it's amazing what's going on with the Ukraine Russia thing, and that people aren't. But we live in a Ukrainian country, Canada, more or less. There's tons of Ukrainian Canadians, right? Like Christy.
Oh, I live in the heart of it right now. The majority of people that live in Yorkton are Ukrainian. My wife's Ukrainian.
Yeah,
But I would say like easily like a good 70% of the people that live here are Ukrainian.
yeah,
If like especially like if you're white here, you're Ukrainian.
yeah.
That's basically about it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, so it's insane to see the narrative on that whole thing. So anyway, with that, I just like to say, man, thank you so much, Thomas, for coming on the show, and thank you for your opinions.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll be glad to come on anytime.
All right. Okay, well, so I'll just say that's episode 62, Canadian Talk, out. All right. Thanks for listening, and any questions or concerns for the show, as well as voice recordings and voice messages that you'd like us to listen to, or advertisement inquiries, please forward those along to CanadianTalkWithStephan@gmail.com. Thanks. We also have a website, Stephanjackson.ca, where you can find a back catalog of all our episodes, and we're also on YouTube, where you can find the video versions.